So, to finish off the series on profit maximisation and the market equilibrium, I just want to try to set some of this in context for pricing strategies. So, if you look at the graph on the right-hand side there, you can see the demand line. So, obviously demand goes down as price rises, and you can see there I've put in a line which is gives an indication of a current price. But obviously you can make pricing decisions and you can move that price higher or you can drop that price lower. But at some point you can see I've put a line across which might indicate a price ceiling. So that's the point at which I've said what the market will bear. So really kind of beyond that you will see a drop off in number of people, say, purchasing tickets for an event. And similarly, you've got a price floor, and you might not want to drop below a certain point because it might send out the wrong signals about your event. So as you can see on the left-hand side there, I said that setting price is more about simply cost or profit. So it can be things about image. So for instance, with a price floor, you might not want to sell tickets for an event so cheaply that people kind of think, well, why is this cheap? Is this worth going to? And there's all sorts of things in terms of stage of product life cycle, where you might, for instance, be able to charge more at a certain stage, maybe at the start where you're offering something new. And also you've got to reflect the prices of competitors. And there are other things you can think about. So if we think about events in venues, there are certain kinds of events that you might want to have quite a lot of people at. No one likes to go to a nighttime venue and find there are not many people there. So for instance, if you set your prices too high, you might not be able to sell enough tickets and there might be no atmosphere in that place. And on the other hand, there might be certain kinds of events where if it gets too crowded, it becomes unpleasant for people. So I'm thinking about some of the exhibitions I've been to, and if they become really hectic, it's quite difficult to get around. And, again, you might want to set the prices higher to, not attract so many customers. So, it gives you a bit of an idea about varying the price. And there are all sorts of pricing options that people can think about. I mean, one of the most basic at the top there doesn't really think that much about the economics at all, and this is called cost plus pricing, where you just add you work out your costs and then you just add a percentage on top. So this is very basic. So an example of where I've used that, I used to work in a youth hostel, and we used to make sort of things like small cakes, flapjacks, that kind of thing that we could, sell to people who were staying in the youth hostel. And we used to work out the cost of the ingredients, and then we just added 60% to that. And the idea of that 60% was it covered some of our time for actually doing the making the flapjack in the first place, and a little bit of profit. But it was a fairly arbitrary number that we just decided to add on there, but it seemed to work and it seemed to make them come out at a reasonable cost, and we sold them. And then you've got the bog off, buy one get one free. This is actually a price experiment, and it's something you see a lot with supermarkets. And actually, of course, supermarkets collect our data, so what they're doing is they're working out how much more people will buy of something, where if they offer two for the price of one, that kind of thing. And obviously it's also something which is regularly used with things like event tickets. You can sometimes get these kind of offers going on. And then there's price discrimination. So this is where we might charge different consumers different prices. Now this is often done on the basis of things like off-peak times. And it can be based on numbers of units purchased. So, if someone comes along and buys a certain number of tickets, they might get some reduction. So typically if you book for groups of people, you might get some kind of reduction in there. And you can target different market segments. So for instance, I've got some examples there about people who might be flexible. So people who typically the wedding season tends to be in the better weather months, but if you're willing to book your wedding in January, then you might have a much cheaper deal. Very typical example there, it's not events related, but if you're thinking you're running a gym, and gym memberships, you can actually buy off-peak gym memberships to use the gym in daytime, when it's not so busy, or very early in the morning or very late at night. You might also offer some kind of perks. So I've given an example of festival tickets with hot showers, and you've got things like glamping tickets at festivals where, there people are charged a lot more. So that's a kind of form of price discrimination there. There's also what's known as price skimming. So this is where you set the price high, and this is often where you've got a new product with little competition. So you're doing something new and unique, and at that stage there's no real competition, and you can set the price pretty high. And then on the other hand, you've got price penetration. Now here the classic example is things like when people sign up for internet or TV channel deals. So if you've just moved into a house and you've signed up for internet, you often get a lower price for the first 12 months, and then the price goes up. And that's once they've got you hooked in, and people often can't be bothered to change. So I've had my internet TVs come from Virgin Media for about 2 decades now. Now I could probably keep changing and get better deals, but actually, to a large extent, people can't be bothered. But they often use this price penetration strategy to get people in initially. And for instance, if you were opening a new venue in Bournemouth, a nightclub venue, because there's a lot of competition, one thing you might do is, do an initial low price, get people in, get people liking the place, and then you can raise your prices, and people will probably still keep coming because they've actually made an attachment to going to that venue. So quite a lot to think about in this block of recordings, and what we've been talking about is quite important for understanding pricing decisions, and you will find that this will come up in your finance units, that you will cover some a little bit in semester 2 in the business events units, but also in your second year. So you need to actually understand the kind of price adjustments you might need to make, if there is a sudden shift in demand or there's a change in prices of your competitors. So it's a topic I'd recommend reading around on, and also it could be something you might need to explain in relation to a news item for assignment 2.